the distinction between two ways of doing development. One which is perhaps an older perspective on it, which has what I would call a perfectionist approach. That is, development is a state that you reach at some point, and you look like Sweden or something like that, or Italy, or the UK. And I think a more constructivist view, which is the one that I hear most in the discussions we've had so far, which rather than looking at it as it's just going to find a state as an end game, it looks at it more in terms of a process. The road, as it were, is more important than where you get to. And I think that is interesting because thinking back sort of 30 years ago, one of the reasons I had for not presenting myself as a development economist was precisely that view, that I didn't see that certainly European countries were not the end game of what development was about. I think so, yes. There is, I think, an overemphasis on aid. Development is really a lot about aid, and especially in the discussions among the UN agencies and discussions between UN agencies and say, international NGOs. It takes about 2-3 minutes before discussions turn to international aid. In fact, in terms of country work and experiences, international aid is not that important. Certainly the international aid provided by the developed countries through the DAC, for example, is not that significant. The influence of donors in some aid-dependent countries is greater than the actual aid and the contribution of that aid to their budgets. So there is a mismatch there between what we consider to be a key area of discussion in development and what is happening on the ground. And I think that is changing very quickly. African countries in particular, African governments in particular, can get international support from a range of different sources, from the Chinese government, from bilaterals, from DAC, from all sorts of places. And that, I think, that diversity makes them likely to make decisions more in line with national demands as opposed to global rules. I think development practitioners are already concerned about environmental issues. And we just had a discussion about that. But I think that this century is going to be the century in which the world is going to eradicate poverty. It seems to me that that is of crucial significance. I think it's doable. I think it's feasible. I think that we have the knowledge necessary to achieve that. Increasingly, I think national governments are able to deploy policies and programs and interventions that could take us there. So I think it's really important. And I would probably place that at the top of my list. In discussions on the environment, for example, it worries me sometimes that that those groups in poverty today are going to have to make sacrifices for people who are going to be a lot richer in the future. And so I would sort of try to draw a balance between kind of different concerns and different objectives, but it seems to me that poverty reduction and eradication should be a priority.